Hello, grade 8. This is Mrs. Lopez, and today we're starting our module 4, where we are going to work with linear equations. This is the first lesson when we are learning to transcribe sentences and word problems into equations. Um, Agree, it's a lot easier to work with just number problems and symbols other than reading word problems and being able to figure out what goes where. So today is when we are going to learn how to transcribe a word problem into a number with symbols. Okay, so lesson 1, writing equation using symbols. Um, this paper you don't have, but it has quite a few examples. So please follow along, and then when we get to actual exercises, you can do them along with me. So here's the first example. A whole number has a property that when the square of half the number is subtracted from 5 times the number, we get the number itself. So far, sounds confusing, doesn't it? But when we learn to find word by word and how to transcribe it, that will go a lot easier. Our first step always is to identify the variable. We want to see what can we use as an x or y or an a or whatever variable you choose. Um, so it looks like a whole number has a property that when the square of half that number is subtracted from 5 times that number, we get that number itself. So that number is the number or a symbol that is used quite often, and we don't know anything about it. So that x is going to be the number. We are going to write let x be the number. Okay, so now we identified the variable. Now we are going to go a word at a time, a phrase at a time, and see what else we need to have. So a whole number is an x. The square of half the number. So right now it looks like we want to see what half the number looks like. Half the number is 1/2 of the number, right? Or you can do a multiplying symbol, but you don't have to, because when we have a variable standing next to a number, it means that it's a multiplication problem. 1/2 of this number, 1/2 x. Okay, then the square of half the number. How can we write the square of half the number? Square means when the number is multiplied by itself, right? So what I can do is, let me write it here. So 1/2 x. What I can do, I can put parentheses around um, my term and put the square sign on it. Okay. Another thing I can do, 1/2 x is the same thing as x divided by 2, isn't it? So I can do something that looks like this. Another thing that I can do is I can actually square my numbers here, and that will be x squared over 4, right? When I multiply x um, by itself, it's going to be x squared. When I multiply 2 by itself, it's going to be 4, right? Or it can also be, this one is without parentheses, or it can also be 1/4 x squared, right? When I multiply 1 by itself, it's 1, 2 by itself, it's 4, x by itself is x squared. So you can have either of these representations, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so square of half the number will look one of these representations. Now, it's subtracted from, so there will be a minus sign, right? Subtracted from 5 times the number, 5x, 5 times the number x, 5x. We know that this is subtracted from here, so that 5x will have to go first, right? We get number itself. Number itself is our x. Okay, so now we know what every word stands for. Now we need to put it in a form of a number sentence or equation. Okay, so a square of half the number is subtracted from 5 times the number. 5 times the number is going to go first. Then we are subtracting the square of half the number, and we get the number itself. Here we go. We just transcribed the sentence. Let's look at the second example. Paulo has a certain amount of money. If he spends $6, then he has 1/4 of the original amount left. So that amount of money we don't know. Let it be x. So let original amount be x. Okay. He spent $6 from that amount of money. So that will be subtract 6, right? And then so after he subtracted 6, he has 1/4 of that amount. So it has to be 1/4 of that amount. So we just received that actual number sentence here, our equation. So he spent 6 of the original amount, and he gets 1/4 of the original amount. That's all. Number 3. When a fraction of 57 is taken away from 57, what remains exceeds 2/3 of 57 by 4. What we don't know here is that fraction of 57. So let that fraction be x. Let the fraction of 57 be x. Okay, so we identified that variable. Now we know that it's going to be taken away from 57. So 57 will have to come first. It's taken away from 57. And that what remains is going to be our equal sign. Exceeds 2/3 of 57 by 4. 2/3 of 57 is 2/3 multiplied by 57, right? And since it's exceeded by 4, it has to be more than by 4, right? So when we subtract a fraction of 57 from 57, we get 2/3 of 57 and 4 more than that. That is our transcription. Number 4. The sum of 3 consecutive integers is 372. 3 consecutive integers is the integers that follow in order one after another. So if I had 1, 2, and 3 as consecutive integers, and 1 was an x, then 2 would be x plus 1, right? Because x is 1, 1 plus 1. And if x is still 1, 3 would be x plus 2, right? So here are our consecutive integers. It can be 4, 5, and 6. It can be 100, 101, 102. Each consecutive number will be one more than the previous one. So let the first number be x. Then the second one will be x plus 1, and the third one will be x plus 2. The sum means we'll need to add them all together. So we are adding x and x plus 1 and x plus 2, and we get, after we add them all together, we get 372. Last one, number 5. The sum of 3 consecutive odd integers is 93. Let's think about odd integers. Odd integers can be, let's say, 5, 7, and 9. They are consecutive odd integers. Odd integers are the ones that we can divide by 2, and they follow in order. They're consecutive. 7 goes after 5, 9 goes after 7, right? So if 5 is an x, 7 will be x plus 2, right? Because if x is 5, 5 plus 2 is 7. And if x is still 5, then 9 will be x plus 4, right? Okay, so now we know what to identify our consecutive integers, odd consecutive integers. So let the first number be x. Okay, then we will have the sum again, so we are going to add them all together. X plus, second one will be x plus 2, and the third one will be x plus 4. When we add them all together, our sum is going to be 93. Okay, these are the 5 examples that I just explained you how to do. We are transcribing word by word. We understand what each word means. Now let's look at the exercises. You have 5 exercises in your lesson 1. And what I want you to do, I want you to pause the video, try the exercises on your own, and then come back to review those with me. All right, so let's get back together. And I have my answers right in front of me, so you can follow along. The sum of 4 consecutive even integers is negative 28. So just like I told you before, every consecutive integer, even consecutive integer, is going to be twice 2 plus the first one. So if the first number is x, you will need to add 2 to it to get to that next consecutive even integer. So for example, if first number is 2, so second consecutive even integer will be 4. And after that it will be 6, and after that it will be 8. So we count by 2's, right? So that's why we need to add 2 to that first number, and then 4, and then 6. When we add 4 of these consecutive integers together, we get negative 28. Next one, a number is 4 times larger than the square of half the number. 4 times larger is going to be 4 times that square of half the number that we talked about earlier. Half the number squared, 4 times larger, we get the number itself. Number 3, Steven has some money. He spends $9. So X will be the original amount of money. We subtract $9 from that original amount, and we end up with 3/5 of the amount that he started with of that X. Number 4, let X be the number, and that number squared is going to be X squared. Now, 3 less than twice the number. So first we want to do twice the number, and then 3 less than that, we subtract 3 from it. Now that is 3 less than twice the number. We are adding because it's the sum of the number squared and 3 less than twice the number, so we are adding these two together, and that equals to 129. And the last one, we have the number of pages in a book as an X. And the first week she read 5 less, so subtract 5 from 1/3 of all the pages. 1/3 of X, 5 less than a third of original X. The second week she read 171 pages more, and then she finished. So our equation will look like 1/3 X minus 5 and 171 pages more will give you the amount of pages in the book. That is all for lesson 1. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will talk to you in the next lesson.